This is for those who think that the scriptures haven't been changed. The Antichrist has had a teeth in a word. This is to do with the follow-up of my last video, which has only got 11 views. It says here that the devil basically whipped and scourged Jesus by possessing soldiers at the crucifixion, which I'll state here. Thus the Lord stood uncovered in the presence of a great multitude, and the 6 torturers bound him brutally to one of the columns in order to chastise him so much the more at their ease. Then 2 and 2 at a time they began to scourge him with such inhuman cruelty as was possible only in men possessed by Lucifer. As were the executioners, the first 2 scourged the innocent Saviour with hard and thick cords full of rough knots, and in their sacrilegious fury strained all the powers of their body to inflict the blows. It tells you how bad the devil's been with him physically, let alone spiritually, with the spiritual deaths that everyone's having in their sleep. Sadly, a lot of people think it's dreams. A lot of people are being forced to black out and not remember anything. People are having forced out-of-body experience by these demons. They are the head cartels that are running the show on the earth. They are basically possessing and trying to basically condemn Christ's body. We are basically one in Christ. We are pearls. It says, do not cast your pearls to pigs. Your soul is what they're after. But the other part of it, it says, pick up your cross and follow me. The only cross that has pearls is your rosary. I have shared this information. Sadly, nobody believes me, so no one's sharing it. So sadly, I'm not held accountable for the loss of many in the church because I'm sharing the gospel. If anything, if my channel's being hacked and not having shared it, is because the government don't want me to share it. So obviously, they don't want me sharing the gospel because other people are being forced to perish. And that's what the price is for following Jesus. Satan's trying to take every form of inheritance spiritually from you, where you can't go back to God. So he's doing it physically, where he's manifesting it from the inferno here on the earth. They're trying to turn earth into Krypton, which is cryptocurrency, also known as... It's not just the Inferno it's called Krypton, as in the red planet, which is planet Mars. This book goes into great spiritual detail about these infernal spirits that have come from the actual Garden of Eden, which is also known as the terrestrial paradise. This book goes into great detail about the spiritual path to God, how Satan's planned on using reverse psychology and narcissism, trying to hook you in like a magnet at birth. He hooks you in when you're young. This book goes into great detail how he likes to sow his cockle, how he's actually infiltrated Muhammad and certain people to do with heresies in the church. He's the one who's setting up Chrislam. He's setting up Christians to look bad. So I'm one of these Christians. I'm going to share the gospel to share and warn other Christians because God doesn't want to see any of his children lost. And as far as I'm concerned, after being set up with slander and that, with all forms of murder, spiritually, so I'm no good to God, I'd rather just say how it is, knowing that somebody else has a chance to survive. Prayers can be used against you, by the way. These demons are handicapping us in our sleep. So you're basically worshipping the demons and sleep with the magic that they're putting you under. They are literally forcing this upon you. Some truths are being forced out. Some people are actually being forced to lie without realising it because they're being controlled and deceived by demons that are in sleep. This book goes into great detail about Our Lady, the anointed Deborah, who gave me the oil and spirit because I asked. She's the only warrior queen as far as I'm concerned, and she's also the prophetess. She's more than a prophetess, she's the queen of prophets. This book goes into great detail about how she's basically spoke about what's going to happen to the Vatican, how it's going to kick off with the 2 witnesses, the 144,000. This book is connected with the 144,000, the 144,000 offspring of Our Lady. So by claiming the title of being offspring of Our Lady, you're also claiming the title of being God's offspring as well. This book was taken out. I've also done research on this book. It's been 115 years since this book's been in public view. There's only a few people that have had this book. Because of the spiritual knowledge that's in it, they don't want the spiritual knowledge getting out, and Satan reads the gospel, that's why he's took it out. Now it does state here that the Antichrist has had a teeth in the word, and it does mention about the gnashing and weeping of teeth, how he'd like to take your inheritance, and it also tells you how about Jesus, it tells you that Satan has a fair speech in this book to do with the other speeches, how he'd like to lure people into beds, tamper with priests, which he already is doing. It's already happening regardless of what people think. The churches are no longer doing exorcisms, which means they're no longer bringing rivalry in the church to get rid of demonic beings, or basically do rivalry where where they're being cast out, but it's not the priest that's casting them out, it's Jesus working through them to cast them out. But sadly, everyone's been put under judgment because they think, oh, you're playing God, you're casting out. So as far as I'm concerned, if you want to see rivalry, go and ask God. You want this to stop? You want all the stuff to stop with what's going on in the world? People want to try and stop it, like Kim Clement said, but it won't be stopped. The only way it's going to stop is if you wake up from imbibing these spirits of wicked angels in sleep, and what they do is they masquerade as vampires, doing blood sacrifices, sexual morality, like what happened with Samson, where he's tied up, you're getting all kinky, doing 50 Shades of Grey in your sleep, thinking you're having all the best things in sliced bread, and really you're getting whammied by a skin-walking shape-shifting angel that claims to be an alien, and skin-walks like them, which I have seen online, which people have mentioned. I have witnessed these beings. It is a lot to do with Stargate, and there is a lot to do with their films and programmes, what Kim Clement prophesied about, because I've watched the video. I've said these prayers, God's let me go through this from birth. I can confirm I have screenshotted a lot of comments on Kim Clement's prophecy about this girl that was picked, and I did see the Mother of God because I saw the arrogant man claiming to be a king who's trying to mimic the Most High, and what he's doing is he's setting up a fake kingdom that looks like God's kingdom in the spirit realm, because no one's got discernment, no one's been taught spiritually, because the gospel has been changed and taken out. Anyone who takes in and puts out of the gospel will not have a share in compunction or tree of life. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm getting the blame for what's been changed. So I'm going to share this because Satan wants this. This is part of 1717Q+. God puts a thought into people's heads to dish it out. So if Trump's working with the devil, he's dishing out 1717 biblical prophecies. He doesn't like seers, he doesn't like prophets, but when the devil hears about seers, he sees right through it, and then he has a prophet. And what he does is he's fucking around and he's killing prophets and seers who have been gifted by God. God said he'll pour out his spirit on all flesh. Your men will dream dreams, your women and children will prophesy. The oil's been poured out. I have asked for the oil because of what I've seen with the devil. He is doing it, and we are being handicapped and hooked in at birth. This book also goes into great detail about how Satan's sown his cockle, how he likes to play discord amongst men. He's even claiming to be a god to trick people into taking the mark in the sleep. The chip and pin us in our sleeps, alien fake abductions. I have witnessed this, and put it this way, the film, what's it called? The Fourth Kind with Abigail Tyler, Dr. Abigail Tyler, doing with what she did. This is part of the film with the Fourth Kind. Put it this way, Dr. Abigail Tyler had to deal with these beings. She had to deal with them. This is part of Project Bluebeam. Trump's part of Project Bluebeam. Jezebel's part of Project Bluebeam. You've all believed a great deception in your sleep, the Matrix itself. I've woke up to it because I asked God through prayer, and it says here, I promise my special protection and the greatest graces to all those who recite the rosary. It tells you you're faithful children of God by reciting the rosary, which means you are good fruit, blessed fruit. And every time you get your head pummeled in for saying the rosary, because when you say the rosary, you're getting light poured into you. The light of God's being poured into you. That's why they don't want you to say the rosary. The devil doesn't want you to say the rosary because it's leading to good fruits that God's looking for. He's looking for blessed fruits. He's looking for children that'll stand the ground with the devil that masquerades as the light of God. That's why he's called the light bearer. He's a skinwalker, a shapeshifter. As far as I'm concerned, after what's written in this book, it tells you to have the entire celestial court during the life and at the hour of death. Everything to do with rivalry. This is all going back to history and films. What's hidden in films is what they had back then. Biblical events, what happened to people like Emily Rose, people like Saint Pedro Pio, Saint Benedict. Research about the saints and you'll be surprised what's going on with you, what the demons have put you through. You see, the devil's giving orders and he's grooming us all to sleep with him. In other words, we're doing the opposite of chastity. Chastity is basically where you're living in God's love, you're living in God's purity. He doesn't want you to have your purity. In Greek mythology, the devil actually tempted one of the seers back in Greek mythology, saying, give me your virginity if you want to become a seer. And she said no. And because of what happened, she became a seer. And because she turned down the devil, who's also known as Hermes, Hercules, Zeus, Odin, they are the gods who had the rods of lightning. Jesus didn't have a rod of lightning. He has a rod of iron, golden rod of iron, but it doesn't spark lightning, what the devil does with his Zeus little iron rod. All the history that I've heard and seen, the gospel of the kingdom restored, you will not make history without God. That's why my channel's not being shared. You're not sharing my channel, so therefore, if you're not going to share, you're going to be held accountable for being a white Pharisee or a whitewashed tomb. I've been set up to be a whitewashed tomb, and I just want to be in a being of light. I'm not trying to lead anyone astray. I'm not being a Pharisee. I'm just sharing what's there. And after what I've gone through, I'm being persecuted as a Christian, spiritually and physically, where they're trying to trick God into sending me down to the inferno. They set God up, and as far as I'm concerned, they're trying to set me up to try and turn away from Jesus. So I'm not trying to turn away from Jesus. They're setting me up so they can try and use our Father to set me out and kick me out. So they're putting God in a bad position to make it look like he's the bad guy and it's the devil. So you'll all hate the devil because he's shapeshifting as Jesus biblically prophesied about the nanoparticles chipped and pinned in the vaccinated. You'll hate God, but you hate